What is up, my ninjas? Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and I am back with another review. This time it is the Halo Universe Spirit of Fire Red Team. This is from Halo Wars. I want to first get out the way that I am a casual Halo fan. I love Halo. I played the shit out of Halo 1. Played the shit out of Halo 2, me and one of my good friends. I mean, it's one of my fondest memories of playing the old Xbox. I like Halo's story, the lore, and the designs better than I like the actual game itself, you know? I didn't play much of Halo 3 or 4 or ODST or Halo Wars. I steered clear of those things. I did read a lot of the books. I love the books. These characters here are the red team featured prominently in Halo Wars. Like I said before, I wasn't into the other Halo games, so this one I watched online mostly. Now, I wanted this for a different purpose, because I'm going to repurpose one of these suits for something else. Maybe I'll repurpose all of them. But I want to first start with the things that are awesome about this set. The figures themselves are awesome. I mean, McFarlane, they're masters of making seriously detailed figures. And these figures are awesome. They're masterfully crafted as far as sculpt goes and paint. The weapons look right. The paint on the armor looks right. You really can't complain. It's just about perfect. There's a decent amount of articulation, so for the most part you can get it to do things that you want it to do. The issues I have with this release are twofold. The main issue is they used a cheaper type of plastic for these figures than with the previous offerings, and that bothers me because it leads into my second issue, and that is with the articulation. Because they use a cheaper plastic, the paint reacts different to it, the sculpt reacts different to it, because when you put things together, mainly hinges on the articulation, you get slack joints. All my joints on these figures were all over the place, and that really fucking pissed me off. But let's get up on these guys and look at the details. I know that, you know, this isn't the clearest footage. My camera is kind of old, but it does the job. But, you know, bear with me. You can see all of that line work. It's all sculpted and then painted in. So to accentuate all those curves and lines and divots and rivets, you have lots of fine black line work. Decals are recreated with awesome precision. I'm sorry that's not clearer. Little things like the decal underneath his pec with the underneath Jerome's pec with the little, it looks almost like an envelope. Everything is clear. There's zero slop on this figure. I know it's hard to tell when I'm getting up close because everything is so fucking blurry because my camera's not the best, but it's just well done. The blacks stay in the back of the, you know, the under portion of the costume because that is the undersuit. The armor sits on top, and it's different. You don't have green bleeding on top of the blacks, and there is a little bit of a metallic underpaint that shows through, almost like a gunmetal-ish kind of feel. But they're really nicely done figures. Really nicely done figures. I gotta stress how much I love this design. It's the best Spartan design. But I know you don't come to me because I'm going to tell you how much I like the figure. You come to me because I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of these figures. But I'm going to tell you that on their weapons, same deal as with the figures. The weapons are made out of a shitty plastic though, so you got to be careful. But they are some seriously nicely done weapons, and also nicely done figures. There are issues with how they hold their weapons, and that brings me back to the shittier plastic being used. I've had their thumbs pop off. I've had little things happen that kind of bothered me because it kind of takes away from the fun factor of the toy when your toy doesn't hold up to what it was created to do. I mean, that's just straight up silly, you know? The other thing was, out of the box, one of Alice's hands popped off. Douglas was giving me issues with his hands. His thumb actually broke when I was trying to push his thumb closer to the other fingers to kind of close that opening. You know how you heat them and you do that a little bit? And this was in hopes of making it easier for him to grip the tiny handle on his shotgun, because, you know, he's supposed to be the one with the shotgun. And I found that, you know, this seemed to be like the biggest issue that I had with this, you know, awkwardness, you know. And that's my other gripe with this this offering. In general with the Halo figures, there were a lot of weapons that they couldn't properly hold. The handles were too small. I mean, so small that as big as you see those hands are, I could fit the weapons properly in a G.I. Joe's hand, which didn't make any sense. Like the shotgun that Douglas is holding, it's just resting in his hands. The freaking, I used to use that one for Beachhead. I have a custom Beachhead that I made. 2 custom Beachheads, actually. And one is more old school, one is more new school, and I always had him using that big-ass shotgun because it just looked more official with a smaller figure. But I'm going to get to the articulation on these guys. Their knees bend. There's a twist also above the knee. There's no thigh swivel. So you got that twist. Your thighs go up and down and in and out. You've got kind of a slickness, or what's the word, a slackness to the leg. And that kind of sucks. That was one of the issues I was talking about with the crappier plastic. You've got a elbow swivel and bend. You've got a swivel up top at the shoulder. The wrist on these guys swivels. Well, the elbow swivels too, but the wrist swivels. And then you can see that the hand has another swivel and a bend. So you can get them to hold their guns a little bit more professionally. And it's kind of nice because if something is wrong with the peg in the wrist, the hand swivels independently. The thing that sucks, though, is the way that the figures are sculpted. You can't get them to look down the barrel of their gun or down the sights of their gun the way that they should, you know? This is about as good as it gets. And I'm going to show you, see, look at this with the legs fucking up. As I'm moving him around, you're going to see his legs are going to just keep sliding into weird positions. But look at how this Joe, this is my custom, it's a light custom. That's Killstreak from the Hardcore, which you're going to be seeing a lot of. Look at how he holds his gun. He can look down the sights of his gun. He's shouldering his gun the way you're supposed to. Shouldering his rifle. I can't get these guys to do that properly. I can do that with the old Master Chief, but this is as good as it gets with Jerome. And that's kind of sad, being that they sculpted all this shit from scratch. I would have rather they sculpted smaller versions of all these guns, or make the buttstock smaller so that it could fit in his hands the proper way and look, you know, more official. You see all the issues I'm going through with his feet, just trying to get him to stand properly? The articulation kind of sometimes works against them. You have to work really hard. Since they're not very stiff, it sucks. But anyway, look at how close Killstreak is holding his gun to his face. And I can get it closer. And I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. He's gonna be properly, I'm gonna have him properly shouldering his rifle, and, you know, looking down the sights, because this is what you would really do. See, first person shooter mode, and you see there's even a little hole that he can look through. That's one of my Marauders guns. Look at that. That's how you shoulder a rifle. You know, I can't illustrate this any better unless I pull out some of my 12-inch figures. But do you see what he's doing? That's how you shoulder your rifle. Look at where his eye is. You see that? It's hit, the buttstock is hitting his shoulder, not his clavicle or whatever. It's hitting his shoulder, and he is aiming through the sights. Now, let's look at Jerome. The best I can do with Jerome is to have the freaking buttstock of the gun sit up on his shoulder. And this guy's wearing armor, so, I mean, come on. That's as good as it gets. And that's an issue I have. If I was in charge of these kind of things, because I have to note the gun that Kill Streak is using was not a G.I. Joe gun. But if I was in charge of all this shit, there would never be a weapon that toys couldn't use. You know what I'm saying? Like, or couldn't hold properly. That's something they need to do away with, because it's tired and it's annoying when you get a cool looking figure with cool looking weapons and the two don't work well with one another. I found a solution to this because, you know, like I said, I'm a fan of Halo, but I didn't buy all the figures because many of the figures I felt like I was getting gypped. There is a twist and a bend at the foot. I guess I need to continue with the articulation. But for deep stances, you know, wide-legged stances, you can actually twist the tip of the foot, kind of like on the Soda Street Fighter figures. Actually, all the Halo figures have this pivot, you know, swivel thing on the front of their feet as well as the bend. Now back to the subject of weapons. I found a solution to this bullshit. I can't shoulder my weapon properly, or I can't hold the weapon properly because the handle's too small, even though the weapon was made for me. I am repurposing this figure for something else. Killstreak has something to do with that. My characters have done a lot of what's the word I want to say? Dimension hopping. Yes, dimension hopping. So the big guy here, or Big Green as we're going to call him, we might even come up with something else, but for now we're going to just call Jerome Big Green. He is adept with one of these guns right here, this Lancer. So yeah, when you see what I've cooked up, I think you guys will enjoy what I thought up and what I'm going to use him for. But this works better. For some odd reason, every time I take guns from other 6-inch lines and I put it in these guys' hands, even with some of the other Halo guys, they do better. Like, let me show you him properly shouldering this gun, at least semi-proper. Since it's a bigger gun, he's not going to have that thing up in his face. I mean, he could. He's wearing armor, but it looks a little bit more badass the way that I'm about to pose him. It's crazy because I just was like, what would it look like if, and I have a box full of, you know, 6-inch guns, and look, oh my goodness, he couldn't properly do this with that awkward gun that he had before, but look at this, look how sexy that is, about to cut you up, and it looks official. He looks like he definitely knows what he's doing, and he's done it before, and he's about to do it again. And what are you gonna do? That's what I'm talking about, you know? It's that simple. You shouldn't have to be struggling to make a badass figure look badass. It should just look badass, you know what I'm saying? See what I'm saying about that? They don't hold their weapons right. And all I did was shake him up. That's it. Simple shaking up. Even, like I said before, while I was filming this and trying to get him ready, his thumb broke. It like started bending. I'm going to show you again. You can see a little gap in between the base of his hand and his thumb, and it fucking broke. So it's hanging on there by like a little thread, and that made me extremely angry. Okay, so after all that crap with his thumb, I finally got him back, you know, standing there, and it's comparison time, to borrow from Pixel Dan. It's time for me to do a little comparison. I'm going to use Alice because she's standing up straight, and she's also, you know, simple. There's not much for you to look at on her chest portion and you know, her front portion. So I'm going to compare her to some of the other guys. I figure I'm going to start off with the big guy because he's huge and there's a lot of you know, lines and detail to see that was actually, you know, it was a missed opportunity on their part that they didn't take advantage of painting. So here we have Jorge, or George. They spell it Jorge and then pronounce it George. I don't get it. Trying to be different for no reason. But anyway, you look at this guy and you see how big he is, and like I said, it's so many opportunities to accentuate all that detail that was sculpted. But then you look at him and you look at her, what the fuck? Look at how prismatic, and it's not even prismatic, but just how metallic that is. It's a subtle metallic sheen to that armor, and it looks worn, you know? Whereas they fucking spattered shit all over this to make it look dirty, but they didn't paint and accentuate the lines that you see all over this figure, which to me is a huge missed opportunity. I mean, it doesn't hide the fact, by putting dirt on it, it does not hide the fact that you didn't paint this figure properly, you know? And that's sad to me. They should have tried just a little bit harder. So, I'm going to bring in Master Chief real quick and show you a little bit more what I'm talking about. Ignore the extra details on him. I had him kind of in mind at the time to use for what I'm repurposing these guys for. But look at all that detail. Look at how all the line work that was sculpted is accentuated by darker paint put inside. It's almost like what you do with Gundams. Then you look at this guy and it's like, really? Look at him. On his helmet, you see in every vent is accentuated. I mean, light does it to some degree. Shadows and light do it to some degree. But once you put that darkness there, that accentuates it. And there's wear and tear painted on here because they put a wash of different colors to make his costume look worn. But then you look at George and you're like, what the fuck? The worst offender, in my opinion, comes from Reach. And that is freaking poor Emile. Poor Emile. He tried really hard to be a badass, and I think he was pretty badass, but you know, people just made fun of him all day. Look at his feet. Getting him to stand up was a pain in the ass because, strangely enough, the Reach figures, most of them have weird feet. So let me fix that for you so you can look a little bit more badass. But I mean, it's just strange. Look at all the areas where they left off. And it's only these Reach figures. They all have the same swivel joint, but only the Reach figures kind of have a little strange stance. Now, look at the gauntlets, the paint on the gauntlets. You look at his, and now we'll move over to, you see the paint, how the paint is, right? Move over to Master Chief. Look at how much more clearer that shit is. Then you look at Jorge, or George, I'm sorry. Same shit. I mean, what the fuck? Now, let's look over there at Alice. I mean, do you see where I'm going with this stuff? There's so much sculpted detail that was not accentuated on the Reach figures. And people gave them rave reviews. It's just sad that, you know, in general, Reach had a lot of well done designs that, you know, could have used that extra attention when it comes to details on the actual figure itself, you know, paint details on the figure. But if you look at some of the other ones, you know, I think, in my opinion, what's her name? Kat was the best of the Reach figures. And if you look at freaking Kat in comparison to Alice, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, Kat has a lot of nicely painted details. I'll give them that much, you know, especially on her arm. That cybernetic arm looks really nice. The problem I have is that all of the details elsewhere are kind of sloppily painted. I mean, look at it. I mean, they did a cool wash with her armor on her legs as it goes down, but when you look at the UNSC logo, that little stamp, that looks good. You look at how on the silver you have that blue wash and then it turns silver. That looks cool, but then everything else looks shitty, especially when compared to that Spartan armor. And I don't know if it's something they did on purpose, and I know people will, you know, disagree with me because they love that gritty, dirty, realistic quote-unquote wash, but that's not realistic because dirt doesn't just stay on you. You know what I'm saying? You go through things, dust will come off. You go through things, dirt will come off. I mean, if you're dirty today and you run through water, it'll come off. So in my opinion, that's not how it should be. And with your figures, I like it better when a couple years or days or months of play adds character to your figure. You know, it adds the dirt and the wear and the tear and the crust to your figures. You guys saw my Soda Street Fighter review, and you saw what Ryu's gi looked like, and that was from mostly standing on a shelf for, I don't know, years since I had him. I mean, with play, but mostly standing on the shelf. So anyway, all in all, and some of these issues could be specific to certain packs, you know, my pack specifically. But I think that this is a good set. It's definitely worth the money, and I want to give a big thank you to Clarion Prime, aka Scotimus Prime. thank you, homie. Your gift is on the way. The weather here is really shitty, so I apologize for how long it's taking for that to happen, but trust me, it is on the way. Let me show you what we're dealing with out here. I told you on the phone just hours ago, but look at this shit, man. And I was just out there clearing in front of my car and in front of the house, and this is what it looks like. It looks like I didn't do shit, so just know that that's what's going on over here, but your gift is on the way. Once again, though, these guys are well done. They're worth it. If you are a Halo fan, go pick them up. If you kind of like Halo, pick them up if you can find them for a reasonable price. I think I had them in my wish list because I found them on Amazon for about $30, maybe a little bit more. If you can find them for 20 something, 30 in that area, that's good because that's $10 a figure. And you know, you can factor in your shipping, which is usually, it shouldn't be more than $5, but yeah, pick them up, you know, they're worth it, you know. So anyway, I am STRYDENT. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And peace outside.